Hey, welcome to another video by Legacy Collectibles. Today I'm going to go over World War II Walther PPK holsters. We have all different types of holsters, and these represent just about all the different variations of Walther PPK holsters. On the bottom left here, we have a police variation PPK holster. And the police holsters are relatively generic in that any other model pistol by Sauer or Mauser, such as an HSC Sauer 38H, those would fit in this police style holster as well. And we see them oftentimes in a holster like this. In the middle, bottom middle here, we have a party leader PPK holster. This is one of the rarer variations, as distinguished by the party leader eagle on the front flap of the holster. On the bottom right here, we have what we find to be the most common of PPK holsters from World War II. These come in both black and brown leather, and this is your standard AKAH Walther PPK holster. AKAH also makes the party leader holster, and they also make what you see at the top, which we call leading edge style holsters. The leading edge style comes from how the magazine pouch is on what we call the leading edge, or the edge of the holster, as opposed to being on the front of the holster. So here you have a typical, more common AKAH PPK holster, and here you have a less common, more rare, and more desirable style leading edge PPK holster. Now I'm going to get into a little more detail about the specifics of each holster, the maker markings, and the types of stitching. Okay, so starting with the police PPK holster, notice the closure knob here. That style closure knob you won't really notice at first glance, but it's a little bit more dull than the other closure knobs we see on PPK holsters from World War II. Note that all early holsters from the early 1930s to mid, even late 1930s sometimes, we do see brass closure knobs here and brass fixtures, such as this we see here. And we think later during the war they switched to aluminum because they simply ran out of brass. Now I'm going to open this holster up. Oftentimes we leave holsters like this in the open position, and this is how we store them. This is because we don't want to put wear on that hole, the closure strap of the holster. So that's why if you see them, as in the last full view of all the variations, you might have noticed none of them were in the closed position, or at least the strap was not secured onto the knob. Now here is where you're going to find on a police variation holster where you'll find the maker mark, date, and proof stamp, the military or police proof stamp. This here is a Police Eagle proof. It's different from the military proof in that the eagle has spread wings, if you notice. It's a little bit larger than your typical Waffen eagle, and Waffen being the military eagle proof. You see this holster, it's made by Schambach & Co. They're located in Berlin, Germany. This holster was made in 1942. So that's the marking there. Notice the straw color of stitching and clean interior leather, no markings on the back. And let's move on to our next holster. It's important to notice the detail in the eagle wings here. Also the detail in the swastika, in the bird itself. I'm just trying to get a good close-up for you. There you go, with all different styles of lighting. So these get often faked or reproduced because anything that's worth a lot of money gets faked, simply put. So there you can kind of see the texture almost in the wreath around the swastika, in the bird wings, those feathers. There's a little bit of cracking in this holster. There's a little bit of cracking and scuff. That's common from holding the magazine. You can kind of see the witness mark here, where the magazine was held inside the holster for a long period of time, and that's why that wear shows up today. So here again we have straw colored stitching like the police holster. There's that party leader eagle on the front, but you also have on just about all AKAH made holsters a D.R.G.M. and it's crossed cannons or crossed rifles. I'm trying to get it in the right lighting for you and focused. That would be nice. But you have cross rifles and pistols pointing down towards, there we go. See the pistols at the top just below the G and the R. Crossed rifles, and at the bottom there would be an AKAH, but you can tell there's a little bit of scuff there. And, well, maybe we can see the A. There's the A, just below the rifles. Anyways, that's where the AKAH is below the... It would be right here where my finger is, AKAH, below those cross cannons. Again, notice the interior leather. Ooh, this one has a little bit of the ink stamp. Now, that's a rare finding. If a holster's not worn enough, you'll see a little bit of that Walther PPK ink stamp. See, that says Walther, and then just below where my thumb is where it would say PPK. But the PPK is worn, just traces of that Walther is there. Also notice there's a leather patch over the interior of the closure knob. This closure knob is a aluminum knob. Notice how it's shiny, unlike the police knob. And that's more of a later war or wartime. So late 30s, early 40s feature. Have that leather patch that looks like the original patch to me. Sometimes they'll be re-glued down. See that little bit of shine we get? Someone glued this down, and it likely was glued down after the war. That's one thing to look out for. Like I said, people try to fake things on these holsters, especially the more valuable ones. That wouldn't really affect the value too much because that does look like original leather. It just might have been re-glued maybe in the 50s or 60s. Still a very valuable holster because the important thing, the party leader marking on the front, that's visible and that's not all worn down. There's not a ton of cracking on this holster. Holster's worth, today, it's worth a couple $1,000s. Okay, next we have our standard, if you will, or more common AKAH PPK holster. Notice that this one too has the wartime closure knob. That's aluminum. Yep, there's your interior leather patch. I don't see any signs of glue there. That's another great sign. And look at that. We have a beautiful Walther PPK interior ink stamp. That adds a lot of value to this holster. This holster is in near mint condition. It's about as nice as you see these. Notice the straw colored stitching. You also will find more of a pinkish or orange color stitching on these. These also come in black leather. You'll see that sometimes. The black leather will always have white stitching. That's not true. The black leather sometimes will have black stitching, sometimes straw colored stitching. Black stitching, be careful. Look out for someone who may or may not have added polish, and sometimes you can smell the polish. That's something people do to kind of buff out scuff marks. just something to look out for. Another important marking again. Ooh, this one has a good one. Hold on, let's get it on camera for you. There's a nice glare shot. You can see AKAH under those cross cannons, but the D.R.G.M, that's crisp and clear. Then you have your AKAH stamp. The AKAH stamp, again, 2 pistols pointing downward and 2 cross cannons. AKAH underneath, and there's a wreath around the whole thing. There you go. There's your AKAH. That's your maker stamp. No markings on the back, but beautiful stitching. That's a beautiful holster. Onto our leading edge style PPK holsters. Again, leading edge, as distinguished by your magazine pouch on the side of the holster. There's another beautiful ink stamp. How about that one? That's really nice. Black leather. And what else do we look at? That closure knob. This is an aluminum style, but not as shiny. And note there's no interior leather patch. But that oxidation might indicate that there never was a leather patch. And I've found later during the war, as the war effort kind of became all hands on deck, especially for the Germans as they began to lose the war, they cut a lot of production features. That leather pouch or patch is one of the production features they cut out. Here we go. There's your AKAH stamp, your maker stamp, again under the closure flap. AKAH D.R.G.M, just like what we've seen on all the others. There you go. AKAH. You can really see the AKAH on this one. You can also see those crossed rifles, the wreath, and the 2 pistols at the top there. They're small, but those are pistols. And D.R.G.M is always, I've found, the most prevalent marking on these. There's the back, black stitching. So like I corrected myself before, black stitching on this one. I've also seen them with straw colored or whitish colored stitching. Okay, and last but certainly not least, we have a leading edge brown Walther PPK holster. This one has no interior ink stamp. Well, don't talk too soon. It's just different from the others. It looks like that's from a city in Germany, and you do see that from time to time. I don't have much of an explanation. That there looks like a name, either, well, it looks like a German name to me. I've also found that Germans have small, neat handwriting, whereas the American GIs, when they write their name on things, it's scratched by a knife in big crude letters. So I would say that neat writing would be German. Also looks like a German name. And then that looks like a stamp from a city, and maybe that's where it was issued, or someone was stationed, or maybe they worked, or it had a friend in the mailroom who stamped that for them. We don't really know. But this is a leading edge style. Notice the mag pouch on the side. No stitching on the bottom of those mag pouches, by the way. But this one has that orange colored stitching I mentioned earlier in the video. See that? That's prevalent throughout the stitching. It's like a reddish pink, orange, if you will, color stitching. Look at it, even on the interior. That's original. That's original World War II stitching. And that's the other color you see. You see wheat or off-white colored stitching, also referred to as white. You see this orange color, you see black, and that's about it. Those are the types of stitching you see. Again, the closure knob, same we see in most. There is no interior leather patch, probably a later war production holster. There's no evidence of glue or stitching or attachment of another piece. That's how we can tell. And there you have it. I've covered all the different types of World War II Walther PPK holster for you. I hope you learned something. Please like, subscribe, and comment below with suggestions on other videos, questions you might have. Whatever you want to see us do, we're here to help. Visit legacycollectibles.com for all your World War I, World War II, militaria, collectible firearms, all that good stuff. We'll see you there. Thanks a lot.